are in the environment, so no firewall, VPN, EDR, NDR, XDR, ADR solutions took place, and they are become the legitimate user. Most of the banks and even organizations didn't allow inbound traffic for the insiders because they are only focusing on the outside traffic to be monitored and vigilantly trigger an alarm when there is an anomaly which comes from outside the network, which only triggers on the stop. So there must be an inside environment for the WAF and firewall that should be protected for inside users. Malicious insider, I'll get back to that area. This is the most important area where I would like to highlight some sort of demonstration for you. That is compromised insider. This is one of the key areas which I found that is very interesting. I used to work in consulting before HPO, and I found that there were various internal network administrator, IT help desk. This is the one of the key player, IT help desk and local support, who are most vulnerable users because their shift change frequently. Third-party vendor support, even they have access to the local administrator account. So how this access can be maintained and how easy for a hacker to take advantage of this, I would like to show you with an example here. Hacking has now become a very easy task for the hackers. It was difficult 10 years back, but hacking is now become very easy for the hackers and for the one who is very determined. The example which I like to mention here is, if you go to these websites, they are openly available, they are free of cost, they don't charge anything, they'll show you the information. Do you know, when a hacker claims that he has access to your credential or something and will publish it over the internet, an organization won't pay the ransom amount or won't pay them. So where they send that information? Over the dark web? You all have the same answer. They posted that information on the dark web. But where in dark web? So let me get to you that specific place where information is not for sale purpose, but for publishing purpose. They are intentionally publishing that information to hit the organization. They are trying to just taking revenge from the organization because of not being ransom to them. So this is one of the examples. Let me connect my Tor. The interfaces of Tor are not very good, but the results are impressive. So this is one of the domain I think is visible for you. It can be accessible through Tor browser. If you go to that domain and if you need to identify any party in terms of what you have, like email address, phone number, username, first name, what information do you have? So let's say if I am having an email address of the third party contractor or an internal employee, and I need to assess that whether this employee is compromised or not. So there are a lot of thousands of millions of records are there, and what I need to do is I need to go and check by means of what information do I have, like email, if I have a password, if I go to the domain, and even you all can try this by yourself. I go to that email, like I have an email address of that person, which is equals to this email. This is for testing purpose only. And go and search that email on the internet, and let me know if there is some information compromised over the internet against this email ID or not. So what I will get the result out of it, including the password of that user, which I am just trying to search it out over the internet. So can you imagine that I will be receiving the password in plain text, and I am 100% sure that the password which I am having, and that user has changed that password definitely for various accounts, but not for all accounts. This is the most important thing which I would like to mention here. The most important thing is this password was not changed for all the social media accounts, for all this presence over the internet. So just an ordinary check of the site. As soon as we get this information, so how hackers try to penetrate that information and exfiltrate data from the system, they try the combination of passwords by entering that email ID into certain other portfolios of social media platforms. How we further go and examine those platforms is, let me check, it's taking time. See, these are the IDs which has made by this email ID, and these are some sources where the combos and where the email ID and passwords was compromised, and it is free of cost, by the way. No information is for selling purpose. So how easy, if you have this, a laptop, an internet connection, and a determination. So you can go and find the user ID and password for the user and try to find this user ID into various forums. So there might be passwords which you can find there. Here you can see that there is a password of this ID intercepted from Pakistan and Lahore, and this was the password of this ID. And you can try various ID and passwords, and you can get a list out of it. Billions of records are published where the hackers were managed to post that information publicly for all the hackers and for all the users who were motivated for this purpose. This is one of the aspects of finding information. Now, what I will do with this ID and password, what I will do is I will go back and we'll check that there's a website called check username. What I need to do, there are around 500 social media platforms published over this website, and it will let you know that this email is present on which social media platform. So it's very easy task to go and identify, and after that presentation, I hope that you all become hackers, some sort of. So I've just engaged that email ID and trying to find out the presence of that email ID on the social media accounts, and how many social media accounts this ID is present into. Now what I have this information, I have the username, I have the password of this, and now the most important thing, I am just searching the presence of that email ID on these social media forums. So let me just recheck it. So it's now it's working. So MySpace, yes, Pose, yes, Tumblr and other. So how easy for a hacker to identify your social presence over the internet having that password? And I'm sure that if I try to use that password in certain social media account, I'm sure that out of 10 I would be accessing one of the account.
When I was the CISO at National Grid, we had our third-party administrators targeted for exactly this technique, and it was very smart attacks targeted on them to then come at those individuals with phishing to be able to get them. So they built, when we did reverse engineer it, we found this is exactly the approach that they took. So they could go after who was managing my environment and, my third party's environment, which was running our environment. So there is a huge amount of reasoning behind this that, again, we have to look at the intelligence that we share with our third parties. This was exactly how we build in that social profile to get targeted phishing on the administrators.
Exactly. This is something which we actually do when we are conducting an offensive security operations. We do with our internal insiders, we do with third parties in order to get most out of it. And you know that presenting and having the most important area is regarding the insider threat. Any information I've heard from people, that information which is published over the dark web, how did you find that information? Who published that information? So I have that solution as well. And marvelously we work on a portfolio, and we found that the number of people who were involved in sharing those files on the dark web were captured and were penalized. So that was a good news for those who shared that information, and for those who detected that information on that specific time. Is related to the hash of the file integrity. And we first ask that who has access to this document. So We get to know that these are the people and the departments who have access to these documents. Then we find out the email IDs of the corporate email IDs. When we search, when we do redo these search, and we find that how many email IDs were compromised, that because of employees were using their official cell phones. Yes, their cell phones are protected with certain authentication and various application, which is a containerized application. Got it? But as soon as they use their own personal cell phone, where they are unprotected and the security is not there, so that is the point of failure where the information is actually leaked. Because when I go back home, my phone is not remains with me. My phone plays by my child, and they have installed various applications in terms of games, and those game applications capture the session IDs, token IDs, and safe passwords, and those safe passwords are become the point of concerns for the hackers, and they publish that information and they threaten you in the another space. This is something which I would like to highlight here, that this is another forum called breach. This is another forum called breach directory. I'll just quickly go, and where you can find the similar case for compromised email IDs, and this is accessible for in your cell phone as well. What you need to do is just search your official email, your personal email. If you find unfortunately your current password, change it, enable multi-factor authentication in it, and you can do this for those who did and who you think that they are suspicious for insider threat. You can do this for those people as well. Let me get back to the presentation again. I'll give this presentation after this slide, so you can also click and directly redirect to that